My next guest is an Emmy-nominated actress and producer. She starred as Monica in the hugely popular network series, Touched by an Angel. She's also the author of a brand new book out this week, Be an Angel, Devotions to Inspire and Encourage Love and Light Along the Way. And boy, could we use more of that. I joined her at her home in Southern California to talk about why spreading light is as important as receiving it. Here's my exclusive interview with Roma Downey. Roma, you've written this beautiful new book, Be an Angel. You say you want people to live like an angel. What does that mean?
Well, you know, in some ways, we are all angels. If we bring hope, if we encourage each other, if we show random acts of kindness to each other. In the research for this book, I, of course, was back in reading my Bible, and angels are referenced so many times, like more than you might realize, and often they show up, usually with fear not.
Right.
So I imagine that there was something physical about them that perhaps was a little bit
fearful.
otherworldly. Yeah, was a little bit fearful. If the first thing you're saying is, don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
And as you know, for many years, almost a decade of my life, I had the privilege of playing an angel on the hit TV show Touched by an Angel. So they've been near and dear to me for a very long time. I really wanted to write a book to encourage people to be kind to each other. And so Be an Angel began with that. When I was growing up, Raymond, in Ireland as a teenager, in that phase of my life where I was rolling my eyes and, dragging myself around, the attitude of teenagers. Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yes,
and so I would, maybe be lying on the couch and there was nothing to do and I was bored. And my father, Paddy Downey, God have mercy on him, would say, you get up, you go out, and you do something for somebody else. Come on, up, out. And he would throw us out, like sometimes into the rain, to go. And honestly, it was just a simple thing, but go and do something for somebody else. And so those themes are woven throughout the book.
Well, I love that you shatter the image that we have of angels, too. I mean, we think of angels as these kind of, little Cupid doll things that float around, fat little babies. No, at one point, in fact, you reference them as warrior-ready and battle-tested.
Yes, it's true.
What about that face of angels that we don't often think about?
When my husband Mark and I were making the Bible series, obviously we had angelic presence in that a number of times.
Yeah, sure.
But most profoundly with Angel Gabriel, who showed up at the Annunciation to visit Mary. And in the first incarnation of that scene, we had cast a beautiful, strong, and striking actor who had, as I recall, the cherubic blonde curly hair. And we put him in a rather shiny armor. And sort of white gossamer, floaty, ethereal veil, and we put a wind machine on him, a la Touched by an Angel. I think that was still my aesthetic for bringing him to life. And it obviously in this sort of first century setting, it just didn't work at all. And through sort of further conversation and brainstorming, first of all, the armor, we thought, how many battles has this angel fought on behalf of the Lord, and wouldn't he be more worldly, and so that changed the look of him there. And I think when we think of the angels that are showing up, we might not all be blessed with an angel apparition. We might drop dead if you saw one. I don't know, or a burning bush, or all the ways that God has shown up triumphantly throughout the Bible. But each of us has an opportunity to be like an angel in goodness and kindness towards each other. And honestly, it's almost like it's a forgotten concept. Every time I open my social media or go on Twitter, particularly because people can hide behind anonymous names and the bullying and the mean-spiritedness, and you think, whatever happened about just being nice? And these are not massive calls to action, Raymond. These are small, doable things,
But it really is about daily living. and the challenges we face in daily living. That's what struck us as I read it, and the seasons of life which you have lived through as a young actress,
Yes.
growing up as you did in Ireland, which I want to talk about in a moment, and then raising your children, and then letting them go and be their own people. And that beautiful transition in how we do need God, and we do need his messengers and to be his messengers in those different periods of life. I want to talk about Touched by an Angel for a second, which haunts this book in many ways. And you mentioned at one point that God was really the star of that series.
Yes.
And Martha Williamson, of course,
Yes.
in the way she shaped these
of
stories,
course.
and the way you all embodied them. Tell me about that interplay. What was that like? Did you talk to her at all? Because I know Martha had a hand in shaping a lot of those episodes,
yes,
and
yes.
you all were. Was there back and forth about the direction of the characters?
Of course, yeah. We all, I mean, no one, I think, knew the characters that we were each playing more than we did ourselves, you know, and we were playing them for so long. I mean, on the superficial level, Monica's love of coffee and tea, Monica's desire to be barefooted, or her love of a hat certainly was drawn right from the pages of my own life. And, you know, you can't see Della Reese's character Tess on screen and not just know that all that sassiness and attitude was Miss Reese herself, because she just was sass.
Yeah.
And, you know, those were just wonderful years and a wonderful opportunity. But we had in every episode, we had a scene that became known among ourselves as the angel reveal scene, which usually was myself having been an undercover angel for the whole episode, pretending to be a teacher or a nurse or a policewoman or whatever unlikely job I had that week, and helping, you know, the person that needed was at the emotional crossroads in their life, and they finally say, I can't do this by myself, I need help. And that was my cue to say, well, you know, actually I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a teacher, I'm an angel, and I've been sent by the Almighty with a message for you, and here's the message. And then the message was always the same, because God's love is always constant, and the message was some form of you are loved, God has a purpose for your life, God wants to be part of your life, God loves you. And we would, as a cast and a crew, join hands together before that scene, and we would pray. And I've never been on a set before or since where I have prayed on many's a set, but I haven't prayed in a collection of people like that. And usually my prayer in that situation was less of me, more of you, less of me, God, and more of you, and to learn to be a vessel for spirit, you know, to be a conduit. And you know, this is earlier today you and I were talking, and I said that Della was so good at that, that she was the encourager to say, yeah, we're actors, but we've been brought to roles for such a time as this, to bring this message to people, and you know, just learn to get out of the way and let God do the rest. And, you know, I still run into people who loved Touched by an Angel, who remember fondly curling up with their mums or their grandmothers, and how it really touched their hearts.
Well, you tell the story in Be an Angel of being in a hospital.
Yes.
And this woman coming up to you and saying, oh, thank God you've come.
Yes.
I was praying. So they equated you and your presence with an angel, the angel they were praying for.
No, that's right. That's right,
for
Raymond.
them.
And that was a very moving story, because in that particular scenario, when that woman in the hospital, I volunteered at the children's hospital, when that woman at the hospital approached me, her little baby tragically had unfortunately just passed. And when she saw me in the hallway, and I tried to kind of be invisible to give them their space, she said, Monica, which was the name of the angel that I played. She said, Monica, I prayed that God would send an angel for my baby, and here you are. And part of me wanted to say, oh no, Mrs. I'm not an angel, you know, I just play one on TV. But thankfully I didn't say anything. I just held her and I prayed. When I got back that night to my home, I called Della and I told her the story. And she said, so you're upset, but why are you so upset? And I said, because I don't want to be pretending to be something I'm not. And she said, well, baby girl, that lady needed an angel. She didn't need an actress. She needed an angel. And I said, yes, but she thought God had sent me there. To which, of course, Della replied, and who said he didn't?
He did.
You know? I know. And it just like, it almost took my breath away. And from that moment on, I thought, well, how can we be used in a show like this? Just to remind people that they are loved and that they are special.
Because like Julie Andrews, I imagine there's a moment, Roma, where you go, oh, can I retire the wings for a few weeks? I mean, there must be that as a person, as an actress.
The only thing is, it's like I'm not suggesting I am an angel. I'm still not suggesting I'm an angel. Every day I start again, Raymond. And then anybody that follows me on social media knows that I am slightly obsessed with sunrise. I am up with the rising sun, and I do my best praying and my best thinking at the beginning of the day, because the symbolism, you know, at nighttime, particularly if you can't sleep, and I'm a menopausal woman, so sleep is an old friend that I haven't seen for a while. I sometimes lie at night, and things just have a way of, like, if you're worried about something that seems small during the day, at nighttime it's amplified like a million times, if anybody ever has felt that. But then there's something so beautiful. Finally, you come through like the dark night of your soul, and then the sun rises, and it's just, it doesn't seem quite so bad. And, you know, and we have the good fortune to live here by the edge of the water, and the sun on the water is lovely. And so, you know, it's just about, you know, do the best you can till you know better. And when you know better, do better.
Do that.
And just, you know, just every day try to do the best you can. And, you know, and for me, this book was like, you know, how do we encourage? It's really about encouraging each other, you know, that people will know. You know, you say, well, I'm a believer. It was like, well, I can say that till the cows come home. But it's like, isn't faith an action too? Like love is an action?
Well, that's what I love. It's almost like little stepping stones to sanctity, done in a way that's both inspirational, but they're action.
Yeah, it's practical.
Items. Very practical.
It's a practical thing. And listen, I'm an Irish woman. I've lived in America for a long time. I love America, and America's been so good to me. But the Irish part of me that thinks anything bad happens in your life, we'll have a cup of tea. Anything good happens in your life, we'll have a cup of tea. We just you come over for a chat, well, let's make a cup of tea. So I really, of course, I was drinking lots of cups of tea while writing this book, but I wanted to write the book in a way that was like, you know, conversational, like and intimate, as if it was the two of us. It felt
like this. Yeah,
as if it was the two of us sitting down, having a cup of tea. And while I hope that gazillions of people find it and read it, I did write it for one person. A person out there that was hurting, that maybe had experienced a disappointment or a broken heart or was grieving the loss of a loved one. I really wrote it that it would be a comforting book, that it would help somebody. You don't have to be on a faith journey. You don't even have to have faith. But it's like anchor your morning to starting your day in intention, to starting your day to want to be mindful, conscious and kind. And I wrote this book that if you wanted somewhere to start, that you could start with me. You could start, you could read, I give you a scripture, or I give you an inspirational quote. I share with you a short story of something that has happened in my life, and then I encourage you to use that theme and maybe take it into your life and do something for somebody else.
And let's talk about a few of those. One of the things you mentioned a moment ago, and it pervades this book, is kindness and the need for kindness. And you tell the powerful story of you coming across a little girl in the neighborhood at Christmas time in Derry.
Yes.
Tell that story.
Gosh.
Because it's one of the ones, it really stands out.
It's again, you know, now of course I see it. Now I tell the story as an adult, but I experienced the story as a child. And, you know, and God bless and God rest my mother, who really, you know, because she had a delicate job in this story of keeping the magic of Christmas alive through the story of Santa, but also in teaching me the important lesson of Christmas, which was to have an open and giving heart. So I lived up in Derry City, in a little row house on a hill. Christmas morning. It was cold, you know, it's not, wasn't California, baby.
That's right.
It was cold. But Christmas morning, of course, we all couldn't wait to rush out into the street. There were lots of children who lived on the street to share the toys that Santa had brought us. You know, I got a new bike, or I got this book, or whatever it was. And this wee girl lived up the street from me, and she was one of 7 children, which wasn't unusual in Irish Catholic families, particularly at that time. And she had these twin dolls, and she was very happy about them and very proud of them. And the more I looked at them, they started to look very familiar to me. And I thought, I think she has my twin dolls from last Christmas, which had now found a place in the attic at the very top of the house and been replaced by all these new toys. So I went running in spite of the fact that I got a lot of new toys that morning. I went running up to the attic and I was looking everywhere for these twin dolls, and sure enough, they were gone. My instinct was right. And I went down to my mother and I said, that wee girl has my twin dolls. And my mother grabbed me by the shoulders, obviously terrified that I was going to go out and ruin this child's Christmas, first of all. The child, who was one of 7, their father had died that year. Obviously, there would have been financial hardship in that family. My mother had done what any good neighbor would do and had gone up into the old attic space and found toys that her children no longer played with and donated them. They'd made new dresses for these dolls and they were going to have a new life. But I said, but how did you give her my dolls if Santa brought them to her? And my mother said, Santa brings a few toys and then parents have to bring the rest. And so don't ruin that child's Christmas. Look into your heart, Roma Downey, and find a little bit of Christ in Christmas. And so whatever she said worked. I was a young child at the time. My mother died when I was 10, so I was obviously younger than that. But it has stuck with me all these years to look into your heart and find a little bit of Christ there. And, you know, I wrote this book, Raymond. It's my 3rd book, so I guess I can stop apologizing for not being much of an author. But I still feel like I write, like, you know, it's not lofty, it's not hard to read, it's written conversationally, it's written sincerely.
It's intimate and impactful. And what I like about it is, look, there are tons of inspirational books that are, you should do this, you should do that, here's a quote, you should do that. The nice thing about this is, it's really a memoir and an inspirational book. It's really both. And you're sharing a lot of your journey. I was unaware of. Did you ever meet Mother Teresa? I know I saw you mentioned her. No, I
didn't meet her. I would have loved to have met her. I did have an opportunity to stand on her. They had a podium that had a little step on it. A presidential podium. I know this is so random. This is not in my book. And this may not even make it into your show.
Well,
but I'm talking.
I'm
talking.
Overtime.
You can chop where you need. But a few years ago, my husband and I were invited to give the keynote speech together at the National Prayer Breakfast for President Obama. And we did so, but we decided, my husband likes to be very spontaneous. I like to have a script. I thought in this situation, a script probably was more advisable. With 2 of us, we weren't stepping on each other, etc. So the president's office said we could use the president's teleprompter. But I thought I probably should go down there and make sure. I took my shoes with me, because I knew they would give me a couple of inches to see if I could see the teleprompter. Well, sure enough, the president is quite tall and I am quite short. And I couldn't see anywhere. And so the Secret Service, I got a box to stand on, first of all. I thought, oh, that'll work.
Oh, that's good.
That would work. And he said the Secret Service were a bit worried because the box was a bit wobbly. And then he says, don't worry, ma'am, because in the morning when the president's podium come, it has a little built-in step in it, and it's the step that Mother Teresa used.
In Be an Angel, you hold up a couple of angels in your own life. We talked of Delarice a moment ago, and Maya Angelou.
Yes.
I love the line, and you quote it here, that people never remember what you say. They only remember how you make them feel.
Yes, I know.
Which is...
It's powerful, isn't it?
Well, it's true.
It's like, you know, because you won't remember, you think, oh, that conversation was profound and lasting, but you may forget the words over time, but you'll never forget how that person made you feel. And Maya, I first met her on Touched by an Angel. She guest starred on the show, and she was a soul sister of Della Reese. They were contemporaries. They'd come up with the same challenges. They'd both overcome. They were both strong, powerful women, both women of strong faith, and both so talented. And so Della, of course, was my adopted mother, and they called each other sister. So when I met Maya, and she had that beautiful, strong voice, right?
Yeah.
She said, well, I guess if you're her daughter and I'm her sister, then I am your aunt. I was like,
so you were adopted again.
I was immediately embraced into the bosom of the family. And then some years later, she invited me to her home in North Carolina. I was about to put the Bible series on TV, and you know, we were calling in favors from everywhere, because everybody said, the Bible series, who's going to watch the Bible on TV? And as we now know, over 100 million people, over 100 million people, God is great, tuned in. But Maya was doing some, she was helping me, and she was doing some endorsements on camera for me, and I brought a young crew, really like a sort of beginner crew, into her home. And when lunch came, I didn't want to bother her into her house. We already had invaded her space. I brought a box lunch in for my crew, and they were eating in the garden. And she came out to the doorway, and she said, why are you all in the garden? Is something wrong with my dining table? And she brought all these young people in, and they were all kind of a bit shy, and you know, and she's, you know, she's such a presence. But she went round that table asking everybody their name, a little bit about them, what did they do, and you could see everybody just suddenly rose, and you know, she saw people, she really saw them, she really heard them, and that was such a gift. So I'd say, if you found that young crew anywhere and asked them how did she make them feel, you know, she made them feel special. And that was just so inspiring.
There's another moment you share here, and it is how faith and angels can get you through over very difficult moments. You talk about your son Cameron, who had brain cancer.
Yes, he did.
And there's a line that I don't know why I've never paid attention to it in Exodus, and you quote, I am sending an angel to guard you along the way and bring you to the place I've prepared.
Yes.
How did that light your way during that period?
Well, that period of time was certainly one of the darkest periods in our lives. Our poor boy was struck down with a brain tumor, and I hasten to add, thank God, he came through it. He's very courageous, and he came through it. I think that the experience together as a family strengthened us as a family. And it strengthened our faith too. I mean, sometimes it takes a trial by night to, you know, we had to dig deep. We had to go inside, and we, you know, we were holding on to him and holding each other up at the same time. But I do remember driving back from the hospital one day, and, you know, I just had to pull over to the side of the road. You know, Mark and I were sharing shifts so that there always could be somebody there, and you know, you know, it was stressful to say the least. Sure. And I just pulled over to the side of the road. I'd been holding it together, really to hold it together in front of Cameron, to hold it together for Mark, who was trying to hold it together for us, and you know, and so on. But I just was overcome in the car, just crying and calling out, you know, like, help us, you know, help him. And I just felt, you know, those angels. Anyway, prayer, angels, the Lord, he was delivered, and we will be eternally grateful.
Well, and the hands, and I mean, really, the through line of the book is, you are the hands and the eyes and the feet of Christ.
Yes.
You have to also shine that light and be those messengers in other people's moments of darkness and distress.
That's
I
right.
mean, that is the through line. There was a beautiful story Shannon Doherty posted,
Yes.
some people might know from 90210.
Yes.
And I know you've kind of accompanied her through
I know
her
Shannon
own
very well. Yeah,
cancer
she's a very,
battles.
very good friend of ours. And speaking of courage, you know, and an attitude, she's just a truly remarkable person. You know, I pray for her and continue to pray for her while she faces her challenges ahead.
I want to ask you about something. I follow you on social media. Through your Lightworkers work,
Yes.
every week you post the most beautiful, meditative, and they really are just what
they're
you were
lovely,
talking about.
yeah.
They thrust you into nature, and it's your reading and
Yeah.
leading us on. Sometimes it's scripture, sometimes it's just be still
Yeah,
and listen.
just beautiful
Why
reflections.
do you do that?
Well, it's just, you know, I feel like that's, it really is the essence of what Lightworkers is about. Lightworkers is the production company I started, I don't know, 15 years
Yeah.
ago now, and sort of the banner under which all of my work, and I have a lovely, small but feisty team, and we just thought that was something that would be special to put out into the world every week, and, you know, for people to share their snackable moments, right? It's just like a
Yes.
minute and a half.
Yeah.
And we send them out. We post them on Lightworkers on Instagram. I
beautiful.
put them on my own Roma Downey Instagram, and the feedback has just been fantastic. Because again, it's just these little reminders, little stepping stones throughout the day of you know, of being conscious.
Okay, so tell me about the movie you're producing now, On a Wing and a Prayer,
Yes.
coming to Amazon. The big deal with
Yeah, it is a big deal.
Dennis
So
Quaid.
at the end of 21, I went to Atlanta to produce this film. It's based on a true story that happened in the late 90s. The event actually occurred on an Easter Sunday. So I'm delighted that Amazon Prime is going to stream the movie over the Easter period. Actually, it'll stream, once it goes up there, it'll stay up there, and it'll stream globally as well. So for the first time in a long time, my family in Ireland will get to see my work at the same time that we're seeing it here in America. But it's such a great story. It's so well done. Sean McNamara directs it. It's about Doug White and his family who got on a small King Air flight out of Fort Myers, Florida, with a single pilot, and after they've taken off and are hurtling through the air at 33,000 feet, tragically and sadly, the pilot dies of a heart attack, and his family are left in this plane, and they don't know how to fly it.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just, it plays out like an incredible thriller. Dennis Quaid is so good, Heather Graham. It's a story of faith and courage, and it's a real, you know, I actually had a screening here the other night for Heather Graham, who was in town and hadn't seen it yet.
So at the top of April.
Yes, April 7.
Roma, in the final analysis here, what is the key message you want readers to take from Be an Angel?
Well, I think, you know, we often hear the saying there, but for the grace of God, go you or I. I think, you know, you do a kindness to someone today, you may be the one that needs the kindness tomorrow. I just want people to remember that we all belong to each other, you know, and to look out for each other. And, you know, I think that I hope that the journey that readers will take with me, I would suggest they take it with me in the morning with a good cup of Irish tea, and that you start your day in gratitude, and set yourself up for a successful day ahead, you know. I see with my kids and their peers, you know, there's so much pressure on our young people today, and comparison is such a thief of joy. You think, you know, what does success look like? Or
Right.
what does that look like? And yet, when you remember to be thankful, even for the small things, it's just enough to reset your heart, you know, to not think what I don't have or a job I didn't get.
Right.
It's like, well, what do you have? You know, start with what you have. You know,
And it
anytime
keeps
I've
you open to...
It keeps you open. Raymond, if you woke up today and you think I'm feeling a bit down, you know, I dare you to think of 3 things that you're grateful for and still feel as down. You know, set yourself up. And
create a little sanctuary like this
Well-
beautiful place so that you have a little retreat to go to, whether that's a park or a,
Yeah, that's
or a
right.
backyard or a front
right.
yard. You do need to set yourself away as Christ
I
did
think
for
so.
quiet
I think
and
you
prayer.
do. And I think you need to set a habit of it, you know? I mean, I think you need to anchor yourself to saying, I'm going to do this each morning. That's where a devotional can help. It's like, let this be your kicking off point. Whether you're in a faith walk, whether you've never been churched, whether you're just beginning, or whether you're deep in a spiritual life. You know, make sure you anchor it to something that you do every day. And then it will just become habit forming, and it will change your life.
Be an Angel, devotions to inspire and encourage love and light along the way by Roma Downey is available in bookstores everywhere and online.